Welcome to AgriMinds, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Kacee, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AgriMinds. Well, hello and welcome back to the AgriMinds podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about something that hits pretty close to home for me, and I know for a lot of people that I work with as well. We're going to be talking about a question that many of us have had or are currently having in the back of our minds, but sometimes we're too afraid to say it out loud. Should I quit my job? Maybe you're sitting here listening to this, asking yourself that. Maybe that's what drew you to hit play on this episode. Maybe you're laying in bed every single night thinking about it over and over again. Is now the right time? Should I leave? Or maybe you're doing what I did for a while and you keep pushing it down because it feels like too big of a question to tackle. And so I want to offer you something today, a way to actually process that question, not just keep it spinning around, but actually figure out what to do about it. Because sometimes the answer is yes. And sometimes the answer is no, not yet, not now, or not like that. Before you decide whether to leave, let's rewind a little bit and ask this. Why did you start that job to begin with? What drew you in at the beginning? Was it something you were truly excited about? Did you feel like it matched your skills? Was it a step in the right direction, climbing the corporate ladder? Or was it the pay, the perks, the pickup truck, if you will, the security, the steady salary? That's what it was for me. Maybe it's just the title. Again, there's no judgment here. I've been there. I've had the dream job on paper, the one with the benefits and the bonuses and the home office and the perfectly curated swag closet. I had all the cool stuff. But over time, I realized I didn't actually love the work I was doing. I loved the validation. I liked the benefits and the perks and the comfort and the reputation. But when I got really honest with myself, it was never really about the job. It was about what it represented, the pride that I had with the company that I worked for or the title that I held. So that's one step. Get clear on what originally pulled you in. And what's changed since then? Has the job duty changed? Have you changed? Are you in a different season of life? Have your circumstances changed in a way that is making it harder to carry everything? Once you get clear on that, you'll know whether you're running from the job or running from something deeper. Now, I want to talk about the time when quitting isn't the right answer, or at least not yet. There are a lot of reasons people stay in a job that no longer feels good. And sometimes those reasons are very wise and strategic and very valid. Maybe you don't have another plan yet. Maybe your family relies on your income, relies on your health insurance. Maybe you're simply in a season where quitting it doesn't make sense and it would cause more harm than good. So let me say this. Choosing to stay doesn't mean that you're giving up. Sometimes staying is really strategic. Sometimes staying gives you space to get your energy back and figure out what you actually want. If that's you, if you're staying in a role that you don't love, I don't think that stepping out and quitting is maybe the right next step. It could just possibly be time for realignment and being intentional with where you're at for now. And this is where I bring in a tool that we use in week 3 of AgriMinds Live called Working Genius. In AgriMinds Essential, we don't dive into Working Genius specifically, but we do talk about your strengths. And we talk about the different tools that are out there in the marketplace to help you uncover what it is that actually energizes you, what brings you joy, and what actually is draining you. I like the Working Genius because it's super, super easy. It's a model that breaks down 6 types of work and helps you identify which ones give you life and which ones drain you. Because listen here, if you're showing up every day doing work that isn't in your genius, even the best job on paper is going to absolutely burn you out and feel super heavy. Inside of Agriminds, I've seen people realize that they don't need to leave their job. They just need to shift how they're showing up, the mindset they have, the approach that they're taking. And I've seen other people discover that no matter how hard they try to reshape everything, their role just isn't aligned with who they are anymore. And that brings me to this answer is that sometimes the answer is quitting and sometimes it's not. If you've tried, if you've shifted, adjusted, you've set the boundaries, if you've explored joy outside of work and you still feel deeply misaligned, then it might be time to move on. If your job is costing your health, your relationships, your peace, or if staying means that you're living for somebody else's expectations and not your own, then maybe it is time for a change. But even then, don't just walk out the door and say, see you never, like, bye. Don't just walk out the door without a plan. Before you leave, here are 4 things I want you to do, or at least I will encourage you to do. Get clear on what you're walking toward, not just what you're walking away from. Have a financial runway or a transition plan. Get your ducks in a row. And get support, whether that's from a coach, a mentor, or a trusted community like Agriminds. And give yourself the permission to grieve what you thought the job would be. It's okay to step away from something that you used to really care about. I talk about this with dating too. It's like, just because that person is a fantastic person doesn't mean that they are your forever. And it's okay to let somebody go and still care about them. It's okay to do both. Now, if you're someone who has to stay for now because of the money, the timing, the responsibilities, I want you to hear this. You can stay and still grow. Even when you don't feel like things are aligned, you can still stay and still find joy with where you're at. You can still stay and still take your time and get the next step in place. What that looks like might be reclaiming what your time looks like outside of working hours. It could look like rebuilding your confidence through other avenues outside of what you do for a living and discovering what lights you up, setting clearer, more effective boundaries so that way you're not constantly running on empty and not doing anything for you. Could look like getting creative and maybe doing a side hustle and start building up a second avenue of income before you leave your job. You've got something else in the works, not necessarily a next job at another company, but maybe you are building your business. There are things you can do on the side. That's called hustle before you leave your job. Now, I also want to take a moment to speak directly to those of you who work in a family business. Maybe it's the family farm, because a lot of my audience works on the farm, whether it's with their parents or some sort of family legacy generational business. Because I know that for you, quitting isn't just that easy. And it's not necessarily just about the job. There's so many other factors. There's family to consider, the legacy, it's about expectations, the fear of disappointing your parents, your spouse, your siblings, or I guess just like walking away from something that generations before you built and having that hang over your head of like, it ends with me. That's a whole different level of pressure. And I understand that one 100%. If you listen back to a couple of episodes ago, like I talk about how hard it was for me to kind of give up the expectation that I was someday going to come back to the farm. And that was the hardest thing that I ever did, but it was just my reality. So you might be asking yourself, if I don't want this, am I going to be letting somebody else down? Am I a failure if I'm not the one to take over? Like, is this my destiny? Am I going to regret this? Let me just say there's no shame in those questions. They are real. They are heavy. I get it, but it's not about them. It's not about them. Here's what I've seen again and again in coaching ag professionals. Many times people aren't trying to escape the family business. Like they care. What they're trying to escape is the version of themselves that they had to become in order to make it work and to make everybody else happy. You don't have to make a snap decision here. But what I encourage you to do is start working towards some clarity. What's working and what's not working? What are the facts? If we do take emotion out of it, what do we know for sure? What are you doing out of guilt? And what still holds meaning to you? Are there boundaries you need to set or conversations that need to happen, even if they're hard conversations that need to happen before you just throw in the towel? Sometimes staying in the family business with better boundaries is the right move. Sometimes it's compromising. And sometimes finding your own path doesn't mean you're turning your back on your family. It just means you're honoring yourself and honoring who you're becoming. And then again, that's the exact type of work that we do inside of Agriminds. I have worked with people on this and we have had some really tough conversations and we've, created some space for growth, even when quitting isn't the option or even on the table yet. We often believe that everything has to change at once, right? In order for us to feel better. But sometimes just making some small changes are going to make all the difference. So again, that's what Agriminds was built for. So whether you're in a place of staying, if you're preparing to leave, or you're just kind of like in the middle of trying to figure it all out, there are two options now. You have the Agriminds Live cohort where you grow alongside other people who get it. And there's also the Agriminds Essential, which is a more flexible, self-paced path that lets you get started today and go at your own pace when it works for you. Thanks for listening today. If this episode helped you, send it to someone who might be sitting in the same wrestle. And if you're ready to find your next step, I'd love to see you inside of Agriminds. Until next time, be where your feet are, keep going, and know I'm rooting for you.